So in this question, this is a question we are doing part C, but this is a question about company that produce firewood. It cuts down the wood, then it's put in the warehouse and it is drying out. And then we are given a function W where that is a percentage of water that is remaining. Then we have 5 plus 20 multiplied by e to the power of 0.079, and t means number of weeks. T is number of weeks. So those are the two values. So we are having y is percentage of water and x is number of weeks. Okay, so part C is saying we have to work out the value of what? Derivative of w when t is what? 5. That's what it means. So first of all, I need to create derivative. Now, how do we create derivative of this function? And I know we have formula, but for this particular function, because that is the function that shows up very often in your exam, it will be beneficial if you know when you want to create derivative of a function where you have e to the power, that will equal e to that power multiplied by the derivative of the power. So applying that here, now we know 5 and number on its own just goes into 0 in the process of creating derivative. So that means I am left with just the second part, 20, that number crosses over. And we are saying that's what we are actually deriving is this part here. So it will equal e to that power. So e to the power of minus 0.07t multiply derivative of the power, it and t. So derivative of that will be what? Minus 0.079. When my variable has no power, the derivative of that, the number that stands beside it. So I don't really have to work the numbers. That's not what they are looking for. They are saying when t is 5. So we take that and we replace t with 5. And that's minus 0.079. And instead of t, we put in 5. And then multiply by minus 0.079. And we put all of that in the calculator and we get a value minus 1.06. That is the rate of percentage per week at that specific point. Okay, now next part. Derivative is always negative. Now, okay, let's read and then I will explain. And what does that mean? When you take a value of derivative, doesn't matter what value, once we put absolute value bracket around it like this, what we take out of it is a positive number, isn't it? That's what we consider. So that number gets smaller as t gets bigger. So what is that t here? What are we talking about? Because they're saying, explain what this means in the context of the water content in the wood. So I have to understand what they are asking me. So the derivative is always negative. What is the function about? This function, the W function, is about how much percent of water remain in wood after a specific number of weeks, isn't it? So what do we know about this situation in life? Well, the longer we keep the wood, the drier it will be, isn't it? The less percentage of water will be there. So we understand that the percentage will be going down. Now, here they are talking about derivative. How does the derivative connect to the main function? Well, we can look at it two ways. It talks about rate of change. So it talks about how this function will be changing. Okay. The other thing we can look at it, maybe it's easier to understand, derivative is the same as the slope. So the slope of this function will be going down because it will be negative, and negative slope means going down. Now, what is again this function about? Percentage of wood. Yes, the more time, the drier the wood, therefore the percentage the smaller, so the value of derivative, the value of my function goes down, the function is going down. Yes, derivative is negative. Yes, it all makes sense. So that's one part of the context of the question. And then he's saying that that value here will be getting smaller. We understand that at 5 weeks, that value is already getting 1.06% per week. But then we go, I don't know, week 10, and then it will be even smaller than that it will be decreasing. Why? Because if you think about life, okay, if there is more water in the beginning, the more water percentage-wise will evaporate. But that once that wood gets drier and drier, we don't have as much water, and therefore not as much is going to be evaporating. So therefore, that value will be getting smaller because the rate of change, or how much percent of water per week will evaporate, will be getting smaller because there is less water in the wood. Yeah? So that's what it means in the context of the question. But when you have a question like that, what do you need to remember to mention it? You have to mention what is the value of y and the value of x in the context of that particular question. So here we are mentioning percentage of water, here we are mentioning number of weeks. Then the other thing we are talking about, we are tying it with derivative. Derivative, we can be talking about the slope, if that makes it easier for you. So we can be talking about that the slope of the function. We can be talking about that the value of y will be going down. Yeah. So the percentage of the water in this case. That's what I'm saying. However simple word you're going to explain, as long as you mention those things, as long as you point out that the derivative means the slope, or derivative means the rate of change, as long as you point to those things in your answer, you will get your marks.